Hello? You know you gotta pay for that, right? Hey, come on.
Not okay. We got ourselves an X-Men fan. Maybe a quarter of it happened, and not like this. In the real world, people die.
Logan.
I don't want to talk about it.
Logan.
Just stop.
Be careful. I need the girl.
What girl?
Go get her.
No. No. No.
Holy fuck.
And we're down we go, we're down we go.
She's like you. Very much like you.
And we're down we go.
I am not whatever it is you think I am.
We're down.
She needs our help.
Someone will come along.
Someone has come along. This is what life looks like. People who love each other. A home. You should take a moment. Feel it. You still have time. Two days on the road, only one meal and hardly any sleep. She's 11, I'm fucking 90.
Look at that. Guys, keep going. Keep it going. Not just because they're here, but because these guys, together with James Mangold, made what I think is one of the best comic book films in years and possibly ever. So congratulations, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You did what I think far few do, which is you didn't just make a good comic book movie, you set out to make a great movie. And you did. It's one of the best I've seen this year, and in terms of the genre, one of the best ever. It's so great. But let's,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
now that that's over, let's ask the hard questions. Now, let's talk about how you were able to do this, though. It wasn't an easy road, right, to get something this different made. Is that true?
I've come up with a new formula for film, that it actually takes less people than you think who believe more, who fight harder. I can probably think there's 8 to 10 core people, Patrick obviously was probably our third or fourth call. I woke up 4 o'clock in the morning with a very clear idea, and I was thinking about Unforgiven, and I was thinking about The Wrestler, and I thought how cool that would be to see this great, complex character in a more real, gritty setting. I rang James Mangold, and he took over and made this amazing film. I mean, it's easy to come up with this is what it should be, but it's very difficult to realize it. But Patrick was a call very soon after. Two folks at the studio, really, at the beginning, Emma Watts and Steve Asbell, and then obviously Hutch Parker and Simon Kinberg, the producers, and then the writers. You know, James wrote with Michael Green and then Scott Frank. That was like our key core group who had a very clear vision, and then we were just stubborn. And the studio, when we thought would say no, said yeah. So
even when it came to the R rating, were you guys sure right off the bat that you were going to go for an R rating?
James was pretty sure. I was very much like, maybe, but I don't want to think about that. If it is R-rated, I don't want to be just because we're swearing and there's violence. I wanted it to be for the adult themes. We wanted to make a movie that was really about human beings, and this movie more about what it's like for the soldier returning from the battle. Because let's face it, for Wolverine, the battle is probably the easy bit. You know, facing 20 guys in the street, he's like, oh, great, this is like breakfast. You know, like, it's family that is difficult. It's real relationships. It's taking care. It's day in, day out, caring. It's having some girl turn up on your doorstep at 11 years of age seeking kind of refuge with you and protection. That's what's difficult for him. So James Mangold hit on this idea of a man who's terrified of love and intimacy being surrounded by family.
Now, this is both of yours, probably, most likely, final X-Men movie. Go ahead, you're welcome to do that.
It is.
Well, Hugh has been on record formally for some time, from before we began making the movie, with regard to that. And your decision was?
That this would be the last. And so, in this movie, is everything I'd ever wanted to say, felt in my heart, saw in my head, with James Mangold as doing the movie that I hope my grandkids, if I haven't, 20, 30 years from now, would say, Grandpa, which movie should I see? I know you did 9. And I was like, I wanted to definitively off that CD or DVD shelf to say, watch this one when you're old enough. That was our goal.
And clearly you are sort of paying homage to classics as well. You want this film to sort of live in the canon of a certain genre of classic film and sort of classic film language. You have Shane in the middle of the film, which is one of the most beautiful westerns and movies of all time. And it takes real guts to sort of put your own film alongside of that.
Guts, I would say, is James Mangold. There were several moments I was nervous. There's several. I was nervous about X-23 in this film. I was wrong. I said, James, I love this idea, but how are we going to find an 11-year-old who can pull this off? I said, are you sure? And he was like, trust me. There are several moments where James Mangold said, trust me. And one of them was Shane. One of them was using comic books within the movie as a reference. I was like, is this going to take audiences out of our drama? But it only seems to strengthen the reality of it. This idea of a character who may be seen as a legend or iconic, not feeling that within. People may see him as a hero, he may not feel like a hero. So having the comic books within only helped that. I feel we've got off track about you. You've got off scot-free on the, is this your last time? Is this the last?
Well, I'll follow up on the...
Keep talking, Hugh. I love that.
I'll follow up on the question. What was it like for you to go into this film knowing that this may be the last time you're playing the professor? And what was it like while shooting these scenes with Hugh?
Well, except for an incident in the movie, I had no idea this might be my last time. And I never reflected on that, even though I knew that Hugh was on record as saying it was his. Oh, no. With me, it was much more recent. We were in Berlin screening the movie, its world premiere at the Berlin Film Festival, which was for both of us a thrill, because it's one of those iconic festivals that really takes movies seriously and is well known for its independent leaning towards, it's leaning towards independent movies. And we were sitting side by side, and we were into the last few minutes of the movie, and I suddenly felt something, and Hugh had taken my hand and was squeezing it. And then I saw him go like this, and I thought, damn it. If Hugh Jackman can wipe away a tear, so can I, you know. And then the credits rolled, and there are a lot of credits in a movie like this. So we were sitting there watching them, and it simply floated into my head. Will there ever be a more perfect way of saying au revoir to this series? No, unlikely. How can there be? On many grounds, one of which I can't talk about. And by the time we had been introduced on stage and left, I was back in the car thinking, that's it. And I feel perfectly content with that decision. Anyway, if there'd been another one, I would have missed this guy too much.
Hugh, was there, when you stepped in and you said, this is going to be my last, was there any pushback where people were like, come on, that's not going to be your last? You say that now, but we'll get you in another one.
No, I don't think so, no. I mean, I've been hardened going around the world with some fans saying don't, but I hope when fans see the movie, they kind of understand how much I respect the fans, how much I love this character, the people I play it with, that when you see the movie, hopefully for me, when I watch it, and I was very nervous watching it, because I knew it was my last, and I wanted to be able to sleep at night satisfied that we'd done everything for that character, and I feel we did. So a bit similar, of course, it's not a character that will ever leave me. Someone else will play the character as they should, and several brilliant people have interpreted in comic books, only making it richer. And but it's something for me that you can't take away from me, and that includes the family of fans too.
Yeah. So the film is loosely inspired by Old Man Logan, right? The comic book series. How closely did you want to follow that?
Actually, quite loosely.
Just that he's an old man.
Yeah, more that I was originally more inspired by Unforgiven, which, having spoken to the creator of Old Man Logan, was literally his actual inspiration for that comic book. There's many. The beginning bit is kind of great, where you see him and he's obviously fading and he's trying to live with his family at this point, and obviously there's a really cool moment at the end, and then there's a whole lot in the middle. There's Hulk babies. There's a whole lot of stuff going on there that obviously wasn't going to apply. So, but really the idea of making something a little more real, I thought over the 9 movies, we've seen him deal with being virtually indestructible, but actually dealing with mortality, a warrior, someone who's built as a weapon to destroy. We actually have the line from Shane in the movie, there's no living with a killing. And we have something to say about violence as well as it being an action movie. And I was, in that way, I would say Unforgiven was the first bridge for me.
Was that important to you to say something about violence after doing so many movies where, the violence, I would never consider the violence of an X-Men film gratuitous per se, but I will say, it happens for the purpose of establishing the story, moving the plot forward. Many, many, many people can be killed in the destruction of a city. So was it important for you at this point to sort of say something about the intimacy of violence, specifically in regards to Wolverine?
Yes, because X-Men has always had something to say. The first X-Men movie, I think, surprised people that it opened up in a Nazi concentration camp with young Magneto losing his parents. It was like, oh, this is conflicting. I see he has a power, but it comes from deep emotional distress. The original comic book, some people may not know, is really an allegory for the civil rights movement, with Charles Xavier being Martin Luther King and Magneto being Malcolm X. It always had ambitions of saying something, really being about humans with powers, but really about human struggle. So that's what we wanted to really focus on here, violence being one of them. There are some political aspirations to the movie, but...
I'm going to get there.
Okay, yeah. But ultimately, a series that has been defined by the themes of tolerance, discrimination, and exclusion. We have a movie about a character who wants to set himself aside. It's easier for him to actually be separate, being forced in together with young children going across the country to cross a border to safety. I mean, obviously the movie had something to say really about humanity and connection and family.
What's it been like? You shot this movie, you were telling me in the green room, you shot this movie like a year ago, right? And maybe a year and a half?
Not so long, no, about 8, 9 months.
And I think conversations about immigration around that time were just kind of ramping up, at least the sort of fearful nationalist rhetoric that had been happening in our country. And I don't think this film was necessarily trying to mirror that. But when I saw this movie, which was just a few weeks ago, I was shocked at how much it sort of ended up feeling a part of that conversation. What's that been like for you? I know that X-Men has always been, as you said, somewhat political and sort of wanting to talk about tolerance. But this feels like the most political X-Men to have come out in maybe the entire series of movies.
Well, it may just be a case of life catching up with art, because the movie was conceived and the ideas were first being discussed and the script in development before we had found ourselves worldwide in the situation that we are in, with hundreds and hundreds of dispossessed, abandoned people who, just like the 3 principal good characters in our movie, are trying to get to a border and cross it. And crossing it means safety. And where they are is very, very dangerous. Now, we could not have made the connection that the unsafe place is actually the United States and safety is in Canada. Now, it's made nothing of, but it's simply there, it's implied. And I feel that as a result of the last few months that I am living in a more dangerous country.
Hugh?
The questions that face the world are not easy. There's no easy answer. It is discussions that need to be had, and I don't think the movie offers easy answers either. I wouldn't say it's a propagandist piece in any way.
I would actually say, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
just to follow up on that, I don't think it offers answers or it is propagandistic in any way. I think what it does very well is it portrays images that maybe are lingering in the back of our mind because of what's going on in the world. And it feels so refreshing to see a movie of this nature, of this caliber, at the very least reflect what's happening, just visually.
They were meant to be metaphors at the beginning, if they were consciously studied, and I believe that they were. But as I said before, real life has kind of caught up with them, and suddenly they're a little more than just metaphors.
Sorry, Hugh, I didn't interrupt you.
No, that's
I
right.
interrupted you too.
We both jumped on you.
I remember watching the primaries about, I don't know how long ago that was now, 6-8 months ago. Or a year ago when the talk of a wall happened, I rang James Mangold, the writer. I said, I think someone's leaked our script, because there was a year before that, 2 years ago, there was mention an outline of, Logan living in Mexico on the border with a wall that he had to pass every day in his limo. So it was interesting. But at its heart, what James Mangold was trying to write a story of how difficult it is with a broken heart, which in a way everyone that Logan has ever loved has died. It has brought him pain and loss, and loving and connection is not easy. Family can be annoying. It can be frustrating. Ultimately, I think our movie is saying it's a struggle worth having, but you see the struggle and you understand both sides of it. And James Mangold is a brilliant writer-director, and I think great writers are on the pulse of something. They're not giving easy answers, but they are opening up questions, even though we're essentially a relatively small movie of characters, maybe 6 characters. But you feel underneath there is some tectonic shift going on in the world, and James is trying to highlight that, and that's what this movie does, hopefully.
This isn't the first time that you've worked with James as Wolverine, but did this feel like the first time where it really was the two of you doing exactly what you wanted with this character in this world?
Yeah, this literally was a blank canvas for the first time. It's my 3rd movie with James. Every time I've worked with him, we had a pre-existing script. I felt we were working towards something that was really good with the Wolverine. I love that movie, the idea of him in Japan, this fish out of water. You got to see another side of the character. But we felt there was a way to go, somewhere deeper. So when we both made that commitment to each other, and by the way, someone just reminded me, it's March 2nd today, and 2015, March 2nd at 4 a.m. was when I woke up bolt upright in my bed and recorded something into my phone and sent it to James. So 2 years ago today was when that conviction really started for us to make something that would be definitive and deeper.
Do you remember what you recorded in your phone?
Yeah.
Can you tell us?
I could. And it's very unlike me not to, actually. My wife's always saying, why do you tell everybody everything? But I actually kind of want to keep it private, except to say that 90 or 95% of what I was talking about is in the film, and that's something I'm very, very proud of. It was general. There was talk, I'm pretty sure there was talk of having you in there. And then I rang James, and then he ran with it and created this amazing film and this amazing script. But certainly the references to Unforgiven, to The Wrestler, and James added Shane and The Gauntlet and The Cowboys. And then after that, he talked about Little Miss Sunshine. Laura didn't actually...
so true.
Right. Laura didn't appear, I think, for about 8 months, actually. That was a real masterstroke when he came up with that idea.
Let's talk about casting her. She's incredible. Yeah. Where did you guys find her? Where did he find her, and what was it like working with her?
I don't know where he found her. I'm sure that there are specialist casting directors who know where the children are, who might be useful and valuable. And but I
get that there's a process.
I was in my second meeting with James, and he said, "Oh, I want to show you something." And he put on his laptop, and he played me her audition, and I had never seen anything like it. And I've sat in the director's chair and know what it's like to sit and watch day after day actors come in and audition. Halfway through the audition, she actually said, can we do it again? Because I'd like to improvise it this time. An improvisation from an 11-year-old, and she did. And it was absolutely phenomenal. And I simply said to Jane, and you cast her? And they did.
Yeah, she's
And how blessed we all were.
brilliant.
She's so brilliant. James always said, you got a big role for a kid in a, potentially big movie that people will see. You have to sift through sometimes hundreds or tens of thousands, like that many people will send in an audition, He said it really wasn't very big, as he said, it's going to be mixed race, Mexican and Spanish speaking, be able to do incredible physical feats and jump around and act up a storm. And he said it wasn't hundreds of thousands of kids coming back. So he was very relieved. We were both very relieved when we saw that tape.
And then you got Boyd Holbrook in the film as well.
Boyd, so good.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. He really adds a level of humor to an otherwise, mustache twirling villain. He adds a little bit of
charm and
earthiness.
humor, and he has such presence. He's a phenomenal actor. Everyone people know him from Narcos, probably, but he's on his way big time, and you will totally enjoy him in this. Richard E. Grant as well, who's
You got Withnail in there.
and Stephen Merchant. Stephen Merchant, audiences here may know. In England, obviously, he's very, very famous. He is phenomenal as Caliban, and it's, as I said, a relatively small group. But the film doesn't work unless every single one of those characters works. And so that's where James Mangold is really brilliant at casting and getting performances out of people.
Now, you were talking to me just backstage a minute ago. We had to rush on stage about genetics, and essentially there was a chapter in a book about X-Men that inspired this as well, right?
I highly recommend a book called The History of the Gene. If you're an X-Men fan, read this book. There is a chapter on X-Men. Siddhartha Mukherjee won the Pulitzer Prize for his book on cancer. This is his follow-up book. That he did many conversation with Scott Frank, James Mangold, and myself. What is going on in genetics right now is not science fiction. What is going on in this film is very close to reality. We are, as Sid would say, if we're a machine as humans, we now understand our own instructions. And what happens when a machine understands its own instructions? And furthermore, what happens when a machine can alter its instructions? So we are at that point in history where we get to decide what humanity is. Do we just stick with our frailties and our vulnerabilities, or do we just splice them out? Can we splice out disease? Can we splice out impulsivity, ADD? Can we splice out depression? Should we get rid of all of that? Then what does humanity look like? And then we looked at that prism for a character or characters who are struggling with who they are and finding peace within that. And it just seemed to be really wonderful. I'm so glad you brought it up because some people miss it, but we're definitely indebted to Siddhartha. Check out that book, History of the Gene. It's fascinating.
Absolutely. Let's open it up to the audience for some questions. Who's right here?
Hi, guys. I just want to say first, thank you for 17 years of these characters. But my question is, you both have done theater. When are you guys going to do Broadway together?
All right. Thank you.
And what if that is your return to X-Men? X-Men on Broadway.
The musical.
Yeah.
That's a no.
I have been first teasingly, then increasingly seriously pitching a Broadway idea to Hugh here. And I think each time I do, I think he listens a little more carefully. But that is, of course, all I can say. But it would be a musical.
No. But yeah, my dream, when I was at drama school, and I am not joking, I watched a thing called the John Barton tapes. It's the How to Play Shakespeare, and it's from the Royal Shakespeare Company, and it has all the ensemble of actors. Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart, Judi Dench, David Suchet, Helen Mirren, you name it. The list goes on and on. And I remember thinking one day I'd love to be on stage with this man. So when I turned up, first day of filming, we're actually to audition, and there was Patrick. I was completely starstruck. And so, yes, to one day be on stage with this man would be a dream.
Let's hear another question from the audience. Who's got a mic? Right there.
Hi, thank you both for being here. My question is, since the Marvel MCU universe doesn't have the rights to the mutant universe, one, would you like to join the MCU universe? And two, which character would you like to play if you can't play your iconic roles that you're playing now?
I don't understand the question. So over to you.
Okay.
I also cannot clarify. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, all right.
after playing Wolverine, I mean, I can't play anyone else. Why? You know, I feel lucky. Sorry to say this, but I feel like I got like the cream of the crop in a way. It is a shame. I often have thought about it over the last 17 years, particularly you know, when Iron Man and the Avengers and all that. And by the way, Kevin Feige was the assistant to the producer on the first X-Men, so we're very good friends. But people with MBAs and have struggled to work that question out. But I'm no longer going to play it. But in the future, to see Wolverine in that world, I think it'd be really cool.
Did you say people with MBAs have struggled to work that out?
Did I say NBA? I meant MBA. Did I say
yeah, MBA, like Masters in Business?
Yeah, Masters of Business. I mean, honestly,
I just love that.
I sort of know what's going on behind the scenes with that, and it seems very complicated. Yeah.
I gotta ask, you know, it's very general, and I just feel like I kind of miss this, and just that fact that someone said 17 years ago you started playing this, and I think Wolverine was probably, you know, looking at your IMDb, was your introduction, I think, to American movies and Hollywood, and, you know, catapulted you to, sort of, for lack of a better word, superstardom, if you will. What's it like 17 years later for you to say goodbye? How does it feel?
It was my first film. I remember finishing filming. We had 3 months before it came out. And I was auditioning like every other actor. I'd walk into a waiting room with this many people and, you know, do my audition. From the moment that came out, everything changed. And not just in terms of my career. It's a gift of a part. I love Wolverine. I will always love Wolverine. I will always love the fans. I've always given 120%. I worked with people I now call my friends, some of the best actors and directors in the business. It is a gift I don't deserve. Honestly, I don't. And I have such gratitude for it. But only when I saw that final film. My gratitude for James Mangold, I could never repay, because no film has meant more to me than this film. No film has felt more personal. And I really breathed a sigh, and I did cry. And a lot of that was really like, yeah, that's the character I felt in my heart. And that is the version of the story I wanted to tell. So I now rest easy.
I think we have time for one more question right here.
Hey, bub.
Are we going to make the announcement? To take over the role, ladies and gentlemen.
How did you get through the metal detector? What's going on here?
The plastic.
I like the Xavier Institute T-shirt as well. Yes.
So I got to see the movie yesterday, and it was incredible. A great story, and it was so awesome to see Wolverine just unleashed. I was wondering, and you will always be Wolverine to me, and you'll always be Professor X. I was wondering, did you give any input to James McAvoy taking over the role, and would you want to give any tips to like whoever takes over Wolverine next?
Well, first of all, he never asked for any. The only thing that James McAvoy is on record of having saying, when asked how it felt to be taking over from Patrick Stewart, he said, "I'll bury him." But that was on a red carpet, and we all say stupid things sometimes. No, I mean, I could not be happier and prouder that I already have somebody who is taken over from me, admittedly younger. He's a wonderful actor and a very cute-looking guy. So I am immensely flattered.
Whoever is right to take over Wolverine is not coming to me for advice either. And I don't know if you know the story, but Dougray Scott was due to play the role and was cast and was caught on Mission Impossible 2, which is why I got called off the bench to play the part in 1999. And
Who?
I met him.
Sorry.
I met him a week before shooting at an event. Neither of us knew each other was going to be there. I thought it was going to be really awkward, and I felt, as an actor, I felt really bad for him. You know, he was caught on a schedule. He couldn't get out of it. He came up to me, shook my hand, and he said, "Man," I said, "Listen, I'm sorry." He goes, "No, forget that. This is showbiz. This stuff happens." He goes, "But you happen to have one of the best parts I've ever read. Go crush it." And I always thought that's a really classy thing, and I'll say the same thing.
I think as we wrap up, it's fair to say, crush it. You did. Hugh Jackman, Sir Patrick Stewart, thank you so much for being here.
Ricky.
Logan comes out tomorrow night. Go see it in theaters. It's incredible. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.